You said steps needed to be taken to uphold and maintain the independence of the judiciary. How would you say Justice Chandrachud has scored on this front? This is contentious because everybody has a different opinion of how independent the judiciary is, and depending on people's ideological affiliations, the judiciary is either very independent or very beholden to the to power. How do you see it?
No, let me first of all preface it by saying that when any case is fought, there are two sides to two parties in a case, if not more. Now, the party which loses will always go to complain that the judge has done the wrong thing. So that is one step. But there is,
Yes.
like in the first I said, I think he has by and large largely risen up to my expectations. Here I feel he's fallen short somewhat. And
In
for me,
maintaining, in protecting the independence of the judiciary?
for me, the biggest in this part was in the 370 case. I'm not going to the abrogation, whether the abrogation was right or wrong. That's a judgment. You see, we can criticize the judgment right or wrong, but where I really felt the court should not have abdicated its function is when they did not decide whether a state could be converted into a union territory. That question they did not decide. It was argued before them. They did not decide that on the statement by the Solicitor General that the elections would be held soon, not realizing very well that before the elections are held, all the powers of the state government have been taken away.
So when you look at the 370 case and the fact that the Supreme Court did not even engage with the legality of whether a state can be converted to a union territory in the manner that Jammu and Kashmir was, you believe that he fell short of maintaining the image of the Supreme Court as a fiercely independent court.
Yeah, that fiercely independent needs to be done. We have now Justice Sanjeev Khanna coming in, whose lineage goes back to the famous Justice H.R. Khanna. Now, that is the image I would like to have of the judiciary.
And Justice H.R. Khanna, for the benefit of our audience, of course, spoke up against the...
Who authored the famous dissenting judgment in A.D.M. Shukla's case, saying that you cannot take away the liberty of any citizen, life or liberty of any citizen, even during a period of emergency.
Now, in what you've said, there are many ironies right there. Justice H.R. Khanna was the dissenting note on the emergency judgment. Justice Dhananjay Chandrachud's own father did not take that position. And he has publicly said that he disagreed with his father on the emergency response by the Supreme Court.
He's overruled that. He's specifically overruled. Yeah.
So you would have wanted that kind of fierceness of independence from Justice Chandrachud.
I mean, it was not that fierce. As fierce. I'm not saying that he was towing the government line, but somewhere in some matters which one didn't see that independence totally coming out.
Now, the counter argument to what you're saying may be those who bring up electoral bonds, for example, as an illustration of the one issue where the court really, went against what the government of the day believed in. And there are other examples that they may give of in a similar way.
No. You see, I have given one example, but I'm sorry to interrupt you. I've given you one example. But there's so many. Recently, the AMU judgment, the electoral. I don't decide a judge's independence by the judgments he gives. Because judgments may be right, may be wrong. It's not necessary that the view I hold on a particular point is the right view always. When we sit in benches, that is the purpose of sitting in benches. He has been in the minority as Chief Justice. He has been in the minority in one or two cases.
Yes, absolutely. No, point taken. Now, one of the major talking points around the perception of independence or lack thereof was when the Prime Minister dropped in to greet Justice Chandrachud and his family on Ganesh Chaturthi. And these images created a storm. Is this a storm in a teacup, or is this legitimate? Both arguments have been made on both sides of this debate that judges and heads of government meet all the time, that if there was something nefarious, they could have anyway met in private. They didn't have to meet in the gaze of public cameras. How do we, the people, know what conversations go on behind closed doors, etc., etc.? What did you think of that meeting in the context of the larger debate around the perception of the independence of the judiciary?
He put it just that it was an avoidable meeting.
It was avoidable?
Yeah.
Why do
we
you
have
say
to,
that?
when we talk of the independence of judiciary, it is also the perception in the public mind. When we meet as chief justices of the high courts, we meet the chief ministers as the chief justice of the country, of the Supreme Court of India. Justice Chandrachud was well entitled to meet the prime minister. But normally these meetings would be where agendas are set in, where there is some official. You don't meet on a. I don't think this has been. I know of 2 instances which have been cited earlier of judges going, but even if I don't think those 2 incidents were either very good examples, which was done earlier.
But again, the argument. Sorry to interrupt you. The argument could be made that they could have a meeting in private. At least this was in front of the cameras. Everybody got to know. If anything really, if any sort of inappropriate, let's say, conversation had to take place theoretically, it could take place in private. You didn't need the cameras.
I don't think it's a question of. That's why I've said it's not. It's the perception. I don't think that anything wrong was done in that meeting. I'm sure nothing wrong was done in the meeting. I'm sure nothing was discussed. But what goes in the public mind when these pictures are splashed across the country on all newspapers, on news channels, what do people feel? They feel the Chief Justice and the Chief Justice of India and the Prime Minister on the same page. They may or may not be. But it just gives a wrong impression. That's my only feeling, that a little bit of restraint on these things is better. Even if there was a meeting, it was not necessary to have it publicized so much.